Hey everyone, it is Dani'i and welcome to this update video. I hope that you guys are doing really good this morning. And so we will be talking about Hurricane Calvin, which could possibly bring impacts to Hawaii, and we're going to be going over into the Atlantic and taking a look at what is currently happening and what is expected across the Caribbean and surrounding areas in terms of the rainfall today, as well as that updated Saharan area map. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. Alright, so let us go ahead and kickstart things with Calvin, and here we can see that the hurricane isn't looking too good compared to yesterday, and that is because it is weakening. So as it continues to accelerate to the west, it is making its way into less favorable conditions for intensification. So the waters are getting cooler out there, and there are also lots of dry, stable conditions, and so that is helping the cyclone to weaken, and there's also going to be some increased shear as well. But nevertheless, it is still a hurricane, and no longer a major hurricane at that. So it is a Cat 2 with winds of around 105 miles per hour at the maximum, and it is making its way to the west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. So it should remain a hurricane as we head throughout today and into early tomorrow, but eventually it should be downgraded to a tropical storm, and it will continue to make that west-northwestward track. And eventually, as we are going to be heading into next week, go into the midweek, it could bring impacts to Hawaii, especially the Big Island, where we see this forecast track actually go through. But afterwards, it is expected to be downgraded to a post-tropical cyclone, and impacts will all depend on whether the system has enough activity in association with it, enough showers, thunderstorms. But those tropical storm force winds could definitely bear down on the Big Island. So there can be changes with this track as well. So let's see if Calvin will actually survive to reach this far out there, and if it is going to be sustaining enough activity. So if you're in Hawaii, it is good to be updated on all that is happening, and of course I will be giving the necessary updates here on my channel. And now we want to go ahead and take a look at what is happening over in the Atlantic. And so here we can see that there's Dawn up there, and it is a weak subtropical storm, and is not bringing any impacts to anywhere right now. It's just loitering out there by itself. Winds are around 45 miles per hour, so nothing crazy expected with this. It should just continue meandering across the North Atlantic. And as we look down in the Caribbean, there is some shower and thunderstorm activity across some spots, and a couple of tropical waves are out there. So let's go on to this surface chart, and here we can see the axes of the waves. So one has recently merged off Africa. That's what I talked about yesterday morning, and there is another that is not too far off from the coast of northeastern South America. One is approaching the Caribbean with some activity, and another is located over in the Western Caribbean, about to exit the basin. So that one that is approaching the Caribbean right now is inducing some activity. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the region. Here we can see all the shower and thunderstorm activity down in parts of the Windward Islands, inclusive of Trinidad and Tobago. So let's see what's going to be happening through today. But as we take a look at northern South America, not a whole lot going on for Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana. A bit of activity over in Venezuela and also in Colombia. As we look into the southwestern Caribbean Sea and near the Caribbean coast of Central America, the southern Central American territories, there we can see some activity. For the ABC Islands, likely some overcast skies, maybe with a brief shower. Let me know what is happening for you. And as we look more up north, here we can see that for Hispaniola, there's a bit of activity offshore of the Dominican Republic. Things looking clear for Puerto Rico, going into majority of the Lesser Antilles. Maybe a bit of cloud cover, but nothing crazy. And it should be pretty hazy as well because of that dust and dry air in association with the Saharan area. And then as we take a look into Jamaica, going to the Cayman Islands, Cuba, most of the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos Islands, there isn't much happening either. Similar story as we head into Belize, parts of Guatemala, as well as the Yucatan. So nothing crazy is going on right now, and majority of the activity across the Caribbean is in the southern Caribbean, whether it be the southwestern Caribbean or the southeastern Caribbean. And as we look at the rainfall map here in terms of what is expected, so as the map becomes more colorful, more rainfall activity is likely. So as we see more of those shades of yellows, oranges, reds, a lot more rainfall expected for those spots. And this is what the Euro is expecting as as we're going to be heading throughout majority of today. So we see that a lot of rainfall likely across some spots in Central America, Belize, parts of Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, also going down into northern South America, some spots in Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, not a whole lot for French Guiana. But even as we look up into the ABC Islands, we see that some rainfall activity is likely there, especially across Curacao and Bonaire. So hopefully that actually comes true, because it has been pretty dry and hot across these spots. So some relief would be very much appreciated. And even going into the Windward Islands, go into parts of St. Vincent, the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad, Tobago, we see that some substantial rainfall is likely there, and a lot less rainfall as we head to the north. Then as we look at what the GFS is expecting, we see something pretty much similar. The same area is expected to receive rainfall, a bit more rainfall for some spots in Cuba and also for Hispaniola, but nothing too crazy is expected. Maybe a brief afternoon shower or thunderstorm across some spots in Jamaica, but overall it should be a pretty hot and sunny day today, maybe windy across some areas. And so in terms of the latest Saharan area map here, we can see that there's lots of dry air and dust extended across the tropical Atlantic and even reaching across most of the Caribbean, helping to stabilize weather conditions, hence much rainfall not expected for many spots. And this isn't something that is uncommon for July. So once it clears up though, once we have these breaks in all this massive dry air and dust, we have to start watching for these tropical waves coming in and attempting to develop. As a matter of fact, one is expected to do so maybe as we're going to be heading into next week. And so stay tuned for an update where I will be covering the potential of that happening. So that is pretty much it for now. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will respond once I get the chance. And as always, remember to be weatherwise.